And good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the COVID-19 Newton Falls Morning Briefing. My name is Dave Lynch. I'm the city manager. And our objective in these briefings is to tell you a little bit about what's going on here in Newton Falls in terms of the things that are happening with our businesses, things that are happening from a governmental standpoint, but certainly want to bring you up to date on a local basis. Remember that the governor has press conferences at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the president has his coronavirus task force conferences usually towards the end of the day. So keep that in mind. Well, we're certainly getting some attention here in Newton Falls because we're doing something to be a little bit safer. As you may recall, the history of the great mask controversy, the governor on Monday at his press conference said that masks are mandatory, and that is for customers and cashiers. He said that on Monday afternoon, and as part of that press conference, Dr. Amy Acton gave a very impassioned explanation of the science behind creating a barrier to block your nose and your mouth, because any barrier at all, she said, will stop the expelling of those molecular droplets of potential COVID-19 from going towards other people. In other words, you wear them as a barrier to protect other people. So what happened next was on Tuesday morning, the governor issued a written notice, and it was a little bit different from what happened on Monday afternoon. The governor's notice on Tuesday morning said, well, the masks are mandatory for cashiers and for customers, but not until May 12th. And in fact, I contacted the governor's hotline, and they said the masks are mandatory for the customers as well. Well, by 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, the governor had rescinded the customer part of the order, indicating that the masks for customers were recommended but not mandatory. So here's what happened in Newton Falls. We wanted to see into the science that Dr. Acton had been referring to, and that science remains solid. Now, some people have said, well, there's some other studies out there. And I understand that there are some other studies out there. But the point is that any kind of a barrier, and I am conferring with local medical people in order to make this decision as well, that barriers do stop the expelling of these molecules, a barrier of any sort, to protect them from going outward. Obviously, it makes common sense. If something is blocking, to whatever degree, the expelling of molecules from your nose and your mouth, that's going to help others. So, as of today, May 1, we are in Newton Falls requiring that the customers as well have the coverings over their face. By the way, the governor's order says the other people that work in the store have to have the coverings. So that's one of the reasons why we're imposing this. It doesn't make sense for you to say, well, the science applies only to the cashiers, but there's no science for the customers. The only real point is let us protect one another. And WFMJ ran a story last night, and that story indicated the fact that we have this restriction in Newton Falls. And in addition to that, this morning's Tribune Chronicle ran a story of this as well. And one of the things I think that I want everybody to understand is that the protection that you're doing, as Dr. Acton said, is protecting other people. Now, truth is that I've gotten a lot of pushback. There are citizens saying, well, some things about me that I can't repeat here on the air. In fact, one citizen's language was so outrageous, and you'll get a kick out of this. This citizen put some language on Facebook that was so volatile and offensive to the entire public that his school teacher, who taught him in school, who's still alive, saw the post and said, now listen, I didn't bring you up in the school system to behave that way. And I guess that's my message to everybody in Newton Falls. Let's treat each other with love and kindness. We can disagree. In fact, we can have very strong opinions. We should have strong opinions. That's what America is all about. but let's not be abusive. I don't mind wearing the jacket of responsibility. I can shoulder that, but let's treat each other with kindness, and let's not be abusive, especially in the language that we use. One of the things that happens when you use aggressive, quasi-violent, vulgar language in your Facebook postings is that you diminish the value of what you have to say. So if you got something important to say, do it in the context of speaking eloquently and elegantly. This little mask is the one that we are handing out for free to anyone, and it is a fairly thin mask, but it does have great barrier qualities. And because it's so thin, it's very comfortable to wear and easy to put onto yourself, so that you can have blockage of the nose and mouth. That's the key, blockage of the nose and the mouth. One other thing I want to mention is that the mask requirement in Newton Falls has exceptions. One is if there's a 2-year-old or younger, of course, little babies cannot wear masks. And in addition to that, people who have a medical reason that they cannot wear a mask, they're exempted. And by the way, here's why we are enforcing that. If you say you have a medical condition, here's the answer. We believe you. In other words, we trust you. There's a social contract that we have between one another that we won't do things to hurt each other. So we're not sending police out to arrest people for not wearing masks in compliance with the order. And we're not issuing citations to people because of non-compliance with the order. What we're doing is we're looking upon you in Newton Falls to protect each other. It's an act of love. Stop the molecules coming from you toward someone else by using a barrier. And although these masks are free, and if you want one, dial the city manager's office, 330-872-0806, and we will give you a mask. We'll either mail it to you or we'll drop it off. In addition, these very comfortable masks are available for free at all of the retail outlets in Newton Falls. All you have to do is ask. And if you come into the store and you forget your mask, oh my gosh, I need to shop and I don't have a mask, then one will be given to you. So it's easy to do, doesn't cost you anything, and it's your way of saying to each other, we care. So I appreciate your kind patience. I still do expect that I'm going to continue to get pushback through Facebook and other forums. And there are studies out there, I understand that, that are not necessarily consistent with the concept of mask wearing. But we made a decision here in Newton Falls, and we're looking forward to the idea of having a safer environment. I will say this part of it. Some of the response that I'm getting has been very positive, and it goes like this. I won't shop anywhere except for Newton Falls because I know they have that order in effect, and I know that I'm safer, and I know that the science that Dr. Acton and the governor talked about on Monday afternoon, that science is still good science. So anyways, I guess I was on my soapbox for a little bit longer than I should be, and let's get to our very first guest. And right now we have on the live line someone who operates a business here in Newton Falls. And this has been an important feature of these morning briefings because we want to know how the COVID-19 era is affecting business operations. And this is a gentleman who is not just famous for operating a McDonald's, but at one time was a star on the baseball diamonds in the American League. And that's because on our live line right now is the owner of the McDonald's in downtown Newton Falls, the very famous Herb Washington. Good morning, Herb. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. You're too kind with that introduction.
It's great to have you here. Well, Herb, McDonald's is probably the most iconic restaurant chain in the history of the world. What are you doing at our McDonald's locations to deal with this COVID-19?
Well, we have a very extensive program. We've been very proactive. I have at least 2 to 3 calls every week. I have had one yesterday for managers, supervisors, and at 4 o'clock today, there is a call for McDonald owner operators here and support people and the CEO of McDonald's and presidents. There'll be over 11,000 people on that call.
Goodness.
And the public expects us to lead. And I think that we've done a pretty good job overall in doing so. Before I address what we're doing, I would just like to say this. I echo your sentiments as it relates to the mask. I have several types of masks in that I have an N95, I have some surgical, and then I have some 3-plies. Before we had the mask in McDonald's, so all of our McDonald's have masks in them now, and we took a lead on that. Prior to that, what we did was we put shields over the drive-through. Okay. Well, first of all, we limited access inside our restaurants. We allow drive-through only. Then we took it a step further and said, if we could put a barrier over the drive-through and yet be able to take the money and hand the food out, that's going to help our employees and that's going to help the customer. We did that. So we have a plexiglass over the drive-through window. At the bottom is open about a foot so that you can pass food and money back and forth. So we did that, which was proactive. I don't think anyone in the quick service restaurant arena was doing that. So that gave our people a certain level of comfort.
Sure. Well, you certainly, Herb, have been leading the way. I guess what I wanted to ask is, all these things you're doing, it helps us feel a sense of confidence, but to some extent, you're engaging in a little bit of a sacrifice as well, because I'm guessing that eliminating lobby traffic has had an impact on your revenue to some extent.
It has had a tremendous impact on our revenue. But in these times, it's worth it. If we can save a life, and I think people who don't wear a mask sometimes feel that it's not going to happen to me. But what if it, in some of these symptoms, can be asymptomatic?
Sure.
What if it's someone that you love? What if it's a family member? What if it's a good friend gets sick because someone didn't wear a mask? You know, I understand that we have the right to do almost pretty much what we want within, being civil in this country. But if I can save a life and not perhaps inflict upon someone an illness, and all I have to do is wear this mask. I don't wear my mask when I'm driving in the car by myself. But the mask is there for protection. If not for you, think about other folk. And I love what you're doing by making it a mandate that people coming into the restaurants and interfacing must wear a mask. We want this thing to go away, or at least get it to the point where we can get some type of testing, some type of vaccination or something, so that we can get a cure for it should you contract it, especially when the medical doctors are saying this is going to come back. We're going to be living with COVID like we live with other disease. But it also took us a time to eradicate it or get it to the point that we had an immediate cure. That's what we want. And if you think back, something as simple as a mask and social distancing, it's tough. It is certainly tough, but we can do it. It's a major impact financially. That's why the government has stepped in with PPP, with SBA loans to help out, because there's no way businesses would ever be able to bounce back if they didn't get some kind of assistance.
Sure.
So we're going to have shields over our registers once we open back up. That again gives a barrier. As a matter of fact, our shields are already in our restaurants, including in Newton Falls. So we are prepared. We will probably the new normal, if you will probably look something like this. Every other table will probably be eliminated in terms of use. That's what I anticipate. That's not official yet, but that's what I anticipate. Some form of elimination of so many seats or table use in McDonald's.
Sure. You know,
going
Herb, there's
forward.
another technology maybe you could talk about a little bit. McDonald's seems to be experimenting. I've seen this around Northeast Ohio, new technology that to eliminate the face-to-face activity, in other words, keep it as little as possible to keep people safe. I'm not sure this was the original motivation, but a technology that allows someone to put their order in at a little kiosk where there's no cashier they're face-to-face with. Is that the sort of thing you think is going to become more predominant as well at these restaurants?
You know, touchless service is going to be more prominent everywhere. How can we get touchless service? And we will have kiosks that will be available so that that right now some stores don't have the kiosk, and so we're trying to figure out how we could do that in a quickly, effectively, and in an economically sound way so that we could get that use. The other thing that we do today and will continue to do, every one of our employees is their temperature is taken before they start work. At all of our restaurants, you know, here in the Valley, including Newton Falls, the temperature of our employees. So if I visit a restaurant, believe it or not, I happen to take my temperature as well. And I just think it makes good sense. You know, I feel fine, but take my temperature. And we've been very fortunate, knock on wood, to not have a case with our employees and management staff. But we're looking at all kinds of different ways. We're wearing the gloves. You know, we're wearing the gloves. And the thing about gloves, I would say to the public, is gloves are great. However, you can't wear them all day.
Yeah.
You know, you need to change those gloves every half an hour, and wash your hands.
Yeah.
You still need to do that.
Sure. Yeah, we've heard about people that wear their gloves so long they engage in a process called cross-contamination.
Contamination. And the health department is very, very good and has been for a long time in inspecting the restaurants in particular, looking at cross-contamination even before this. And that's why we have a buzzer goes off, and we call it timeout. That timeout means that you stop, the grill team washes their hands and sanitizes, and then the folks up front, they go back and wash their hands and sanitize before they come back to their workstations.
My goodness. Well, what a joy it's been to have Herb Washington on our program. Herb, a lot of people in Newton Falls, they know about you being the king of the local McDonald's franchises, but, and I'm only going to touch on this because we're running short on time, but we'll have you back again because you spent an early part of your career as a lightning fast speed specialist, base running specialist for the Oakland A's. That was a sort of an earlier chapter in your life, wasn't it?
It certainly was. And what the public may not know is that you are quite a baseball aficionado. So that'll be quite a conversation you and I have. We'll have a few Egg McMuffins over there.
Yeah, you just have to promise me you'll tell me what really goes on inside the head of Reggie Jackson. All right?
Oh, that'll take up the whole show.
Okay. All right, Herb. Well, listen, good luck to you as you as maneuver through these very difficult waters of the fast food restauranting. And last but not least, peace and very good health to you and your family, Herb. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you. You stay strong. You're on the right track.
Okay.
You're doing a great job. So stay the course.
We will. Thanks, Herb. That was Herb Washington, one of the great personalities in the area of Northeast Ohio. And we're going to try to switch gears. No guarantees we are going to get this guy on the line because he is a representative in the Ohio House of Representatives, and his name is Paul Zeltwanger, and he's doing something unusual, but he may be tied up in a conference call with the governor right now. So we'll end the show without him if we can't get him on the line. Yeah, hi, Paul. David Lynch. We're live on the air for the Newton Falls COVID-19 briefing. Are you available to talk for a minute?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that is great. Listen, Paul, you have been, to some extent, the author of a program that's been called the Responsible Open Ohio Framework, and it's really getting some attention around the state. What is it all about, Paul?
Well, I think as part of a lot of us in the House, and I actually credit Speaker Larry Householder for putting me kind of in charge of the task force that was designed to listen to all Ohioans throughout the state. Rural, suburban, urban, small business, medium business, sole proprietors, and employees, quite frankly. And as we've listened over the last 3 weeks, you hear the stories of pain and suffering. And we wanted to try to help the administration and the governor's office come forward with a plan. And it was so as we continued to look at the stories, but also the data and the actual results that were coming forward, we just felt like we wanted to put forth a plan. We feel like that all Ohioans have complied with the orders, and the data is supporting that now it's time to open up responsibly.
Well, open up responsibly really means having target dates for opening that are almost immediate as opposed to the delays that the governor is proposing. Is that a fair way of describing your plan?
Yeah, it's a fair way. But again, I just think, business people are responsible people. They understand if they're not providing a safe work environment for their employees, they're not coming back. Or for their customers, they're not coming in. So there may be some businesses that may need to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks anyway. In fact, my district has Kings Island. They've already said it will take them 4 to 6 weeks, even if they could open up. And you know what? If they felt any risk of opening up, of additional exposure or anything, they're not going to do it. They have a liability, and they understand that.
Well, as these policies are developed, one of the things that we shouldn't be afraid to talk about is that there are different viewpoints. One of our residents, Brian Kropp, actually sent me some information about your plan. He's sent me information about other scientific studies. And one of the things I want to applaud you in is bringing an environment of open discussion here in the state of Ohio. We just shouldn't be afraid to express our opinion, especially when they're strongly held opinions about how to get Ohio up and running again. And my general sense of things is that you've got a strong streak of trust in the citizens and business operators in Ohio to figure this out for themselves. Is that a good way of putting your position?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, I've been for probably the last 3 to 4 weeks when a lot of the business owners or operators were calling my office saying, what do we need to do? I put it back onto them and said, you need to document your updated protocols of how you can safely operate. I was inundated. I was amazed at how thorough and detailed they were. And I said, they know their business better than any of us. And in fact, we had she's a high-end dog groomer from Upper Arlington area in Columbus on the call on Wednesday that went through in detail for operating protocols. Now, the reality of I'm a business guy, I couldn't figure that out for her. So my concern is I just hope we don't micromanage everything because I think that's going to cause a lot of issues.
Well, I think that businesses need to figure out a way to to survive, but to a great extent, they are really the masters of their own fate because the bottom line gets affected by the way they manage this. Would that be a fair way of describing your position as well?
Yeah, and absolutely. And I'll give another example. We've had numerous people come on the task force to share this. a restaurant owner, for example, part of the discussion right now is maybe we let them open up at 30% or 50% capacity or whatever. And yesterday or Wednesday, they came on and said that doesn't work for us. We lose money if we're at 50% because we have to, obviously hire more people to open up. And so again, trying to figure this out from, I hate to say it this way, but from government and or people that we aren't in the business, we need to trust them, especially restaurant owners. As you know, they've had to protect us from Ebola, salmonella, all these other issues. And they also know if they don't provide a clean, safe environment and it doesn't feel right, customers aren't going to come and employees may not come back.
Sure. And I think they also know that they all have to carry liability insurance, but they don't want to incur legal liability for acting in a negligent way. And most business owners I know of are very ever conscious of that risk.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I'm in a business where you're exposed to risk every day. That's part of what we have to try to manage. And, we need to be good community citizens in how we operate our business. And now in this current environment, that's part of, stepping up our protocols to make it safe for all.
Well, listen, Paul, we appreciate you. And one great thing about Ohio, people have different attitudes towards policy, and they want to be able to speak their mind, and they want their state representatives to represent that as well. So congratulations to you. We've got your number on the screen, 614-644-6027, and you'll be hearing from Newton Falls now, Paul, so you have a great day today.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay, thanks again. Paul Zeltzwanger, state representative over in the Ohio House of Representatives, who's been leading the new document, Responsible Open Ohio Framework. So there are some variations in what people think, what policy we should put in place. We should keep those open discussions coming. However, let's protect each other at the same time, and let's respect the mandates that have come forward. We're not telling people they can't drive their cars. We're not telling people that the most important parts of their liberty have to be stopped or taken away. The only thing we're imposing right now in Newton Falls is that if you're a customer, wear the mask. We'll get one to you. It is free. And if you do want to contact me directly, I have the now referred to as the Yell at the City Manager line, which is 330-872-0806. So I will take your calls. You can yell at me. I ask you to refrain from expletives. I know Richard Nixon used to use them, but I ask our citizens to be a little bit more elegant in their language. And certainly, there's no reason to be aggressive or to threaten violence. And believe me, folks, that's happened as well. Well, we need to bring this edition to a close. Please do wear these masks when you're in the store. They have a barrier effect, and that helps keep us safe. Also, stay in prayer, as I mentioned during each one of these. We're just about beginning to see our own emergence from this dark cave that we've been in. We're getting closer to that exit from the cave. I can see a little bit of daylight, and we're slowly heading in that direction. So let's keep up what we've been doing in a very responsible way. Wear the masks when you're in the stores. And last but not least, as I always conclude, God bless America, and God bless the city of Newton Falls.